Hey everybody, and welcome to another review of the CVR World Cup races last night. Last night, I had the pleasure of racing myself and not being in the commentary booth, but I thought, with all the action that went on in the first race, which you see on the screen right now, the fantastic Dimensionism track, and the second race, which was the fantastic Alien Sea track as well. I was going to sit down today. I've recovered. I've calmed down a tiny bit. I've thought about the racing, and now I want to share my thoughts as the race progressed out, because in both races, I was up there near the pointy ends. I had a chance of winning in both races, and in the end, it came down to my mental ability to make decisions under stress that kind of panned it out. And this guy Tim Fulford also played quite a big role in me not winning the first race. But in 5 seconds time, you're going to see the first ever race on the fantastic Dimension track get underway. Here we go. And as always, in case you didn't know, for the first 10 seconds of racing, you are it's like you have a quantum shift. Like, you cannot be, your hitbox is not tangible, it's not heavy. You can ride through people for the first 10 seconds, and so you should use that to your advantage. You should sprint out of the gate, make sure to get to the inside line. For the first 10 seconds, you will not crash. But we see Timothy straight out of the gun. He is off to a quick start. Ben, me are following him down. Tim's going as well, but there's only 385 equalized watts at this point. His heart rate is 188 equalized heart rate. Probably a bit too much. It's always good to see Ben Shui along in as well. He's a new addition to the webcam, so it's good to see all the suffering to all the faces, because when you're racing, especially in these alien courses, all you do see is the motorbikes, and so sometimes you can't really associate the suffering to the human being behind it. But with the live streams, seeing the faces such as Ben's is quite refreshing to go back afterwards and recap all the action. Not much is happening at this point. We'll just speed it up a tiny bit. So you see, the course is kind of like a crit course. Like, it's a quick course. There's not much drafting, raw powers, and no powers were available. It's going to make a big difference. You can see here Tim's on the inside. I'll slow it down. Prior to the race, this is me. That is Ryan. We agreed to choose the same avatar. So in case you didn't know, I was riding for the Vixen team yesterday, which is part of the reason why the Cycling Hub mutiny happened yesterday. Ooh. Go back, watch that reaction for a second there. So Tim is trying to accelerate and get through this gap, but Timothy, his teammate, closes him down, and you'll see a little reaction on Tim's face. But prior to the race, Ryan and I agreed to be on the same avatar. That way we can tell each other, because in this update of CVRcade, they've taken away the names over the top. I don't know if that's a permanent thing, but for now, in order to tell who your teammates are, you need to be like the same sort of kid. And again, Timothy, there might be some lack of communication there from Tim and Timothy, because that's twice that Timothy has bumped into Tim without looking into the rearview mirror and slowed it down. But here we go. Casey now puts on the pressure. I remember this. Casey's on the front. You can now see my face. I'm talking to Ryan as my mouth moves. All looking good. All looking good. I'm still relatively fresh. Equalized heart rate of 167. I'm drafting Vanessa. Spoiler alert, she's the eventual winner of this race, and I knew she was feeling good. Vanessa, the way she rode, she was really, really on it today, and she didn't really change lanes much. She won because she just had the power, so she stayed in the middle. I'm sure Frank shared a few words with her, and she just powered down. And looking back, it's a really risky move, because it's like I kind of knew Vanessa was on for one today, at this point when she was doing so well, and I could sit in and I could draft, and I'm getting 30% draft. But I'm panicking here. I'm like, Vanessa's good, but Casey's now 3 seconds up the road. Tim is 3 seconds back from Casey, and in a second you're going to see Tim bridge that gap. And so my eyes at this point are getting stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. If you look, I mean, that's not a face of somebody who's comfortable doing what he's doing right now. So in my mind, we're about, 2 laps in? We're on a third lap. I have to make a decision. What do I do? Do I stay with Vanessa and just hope that she slowly increases the wattages as she catches the rest? Hindsight, I probably should have done that. But then again, I could not have predicted that Casey would crash 4 times in total. Just no one can do that. But you can see Tim is now at equalized heart rate of 193. Casey's gone on to the attack. His heart rate monitor has kind of stopped working, because I assume his heart rate would be similar to Tim's right now, 192. It's a serious effort as they're trying to break it up now. And I have made the decision here with Ben to try and chase back on. I said also to Ryan, right, Ryan, I'm going to close it down. I'm going to burn a match trying to close down the gap to Casey and Tim. You have to stick with a group. You sit in with Sebastian, you sit in with Timothy, Quinton, Ben, etc. Just try and sit in. So here I am. I'm at 186 equalized heart rate. Tim has closed down the gap to Casey. He's going to sit back on the wheel. And there you got me now coming back. You can see this is taking a bit out of me. This is definitely a match burn as I'm trying to bridge a 5-second gap. But that 5-second gap is worth it. If you have a match to burn, I do believe I made the right decision, because tongues out, but I am suffering for a good cause, because as soon as I get back to Tim and Casey, I'm going to get a 30-40% draft, which means I can coast, I can recover, I can get ready again. So I do remember this effort felt a lot longer than is being displayed here on camera. I mean, this 2-minute effort is really kind of hurt 3-minute effort. So the strategy now for the Velocity Vixen, which was the team I was on yesterday, was that Ryan needs to sit in, match Ben, match Timothy, match Sebastian. Don't take a turn in the front. Don't pull us back. I will do my best to win it if it comes to a 3-up sprint from the 3 of us. But all you have to do, Ryan, is sit in. But I make it back onto Tim. I think at this point in the commentary, Beth was talking about how Tim and I were teammates, and that is an easy mistake to make, because on a daily basis we are teammates. But for this race, I did decide to take on different colors just to try and spice it up. I mean, Cycling Hub can't have all the monopoly. Now, this course is so tricky. I mean, with all the twists and turns, in a turn like this, in a corner like this, you do not get much of a draft. You're pretty much on zero unless you are straight up the back. Now you can see Ben is going to have to make a decision here. He's sitting at 400 equalized watts. Team CCC does not have a rider in that breakaway. They have 2 riders in this back group with Ben and Sebastian, so they do have to make a move here. And it looks like Ben is trying to do it, but I think I remember from Ben yesterday is that he didn't really utilize the turns that much. And that may be due down to the fact that his keyboard was too far out of reach. I mean, I'm not too sure. But on this course, Tim and I did some research prior to the race. And I think everybody did a bunch of research. I mean, I saw Casey was out doing laps. I saw Sebastian. I saw Homer. I did it. Quinton did it. Timothy did it. Ben even did it. So when we were doing the test laps earlier on in the day, Tim and I figured out that optimal lane choices would save you 2 seconds per lap. So if you sit at FTP, if you sit at 367 equalized watts, and you sit in the middle all the way through, like that, or that versus taking the inside lane, swapping inside lanes every corner, that saves you 2 seconds per lap. That is 2 times 20. That is 40 seconds you save from just choosing the right laps, the right corners. And I think that was really on display when you look at a guy like Ben last night. He had to put down a lot more power to stay with the front, but in the end he was still further up because he only crashed so many times. But now it's kind of settled in. We have a front group and we have a chasing group. You can see Vanessa now. She's doing 500 equalized watts. She is chasing down. She does have Casey in the breakaway, so I'm not sure of the strategy of that, but she looks fine. I was determined to win this one. Like, when I look back at myself, I was looking fresh. I was feeling fresh. I was in the draft. I'd done the research. I mean, I made the move to get to the front here. You can see swapping turns. I was also using controllers tonight for the first time. Not the Xbox controller, but I was using the CVRcade prototype controller, which has like lane swapping on the hoods. So I could, without having to really move my fingers, I could go left and right just by clicking it. And it makes such a big difference. Like that millisecond, that half a second you save every time you change a lane. I mean, just the movement of having to open up your chest and move your arm forward, you save so much energy. Now, it gets quite tactical near the front here. I mean, Casey doesn't really want to take me and Tim to the line, just tow us forever. Tim and I don't really want to take turns in the front here. Here I do what Tim eventually does to me later on. I don't really need to go to the inside because I don't want Casey to get on my wheel, so I stay on the outside. I force Casey out here. I think at this point, I'm on the comms, and I'm saying to Ryan, I'm slowing it down. I'm bringing the group back. I didn't really feel confident taking Casey and Tim in you can see I'm talking right now. I did not feel confident in beating Casey and Tim. They can both suffer a bit more than I can do. I mean, Casey set his 3rd best ever 20-minute power last night, and I don't think I was that prepared to suffer. I was close. I was 2 watts off my max curve on Cade. But no. So I said to Ryan, look, I'm finding myself on the front right now. We have 12 kilometers to go. You're sitting in the second group. You're sitting just fine. Just sit in. I mean, I'm going to slow this group down. So I did, but I don't think Tim enjoyed that. So Tim went around us, went to the outside, and he's now doing 600, 700 equalized watts. And now Casey and I have to react to this move. So it's a lot like real life road racing, where the cooperation in the front group kind of came to a halt because I didn't want to work with them. I don't want to take turns in the front. There's no point in me suffering and killing myself just to sprint with Tim and Casey. I'd rather just play my cards and play poker. But Tim didn't agree, so he attacks off the front. That means Casey's now trying to chase him down, and I'm sitting on Casey, and I have to follow his moves as much as I can. So it's all back together, and you can see I'm suffering a tiny bit, but taking the inside lane. Massive difference between me and Tim. Tim is the yellow guy. Vanessa at this point, though, that's not Vanessa, sorry. Is that Frank? That's somebody else. That's somebody who's been lapped out on course. I think that is indeed Frank who's been lapped out on course. Now, following Casey, is it this point of the race where Casey does it to me? Casey at one point in the race. Actually, that's kind of cheeky. I've just noticed that now. If that is indeed Frank who's been lapped, Casey slots into the back wheel of Frank. Frank does a bit of an acceleration and tries to drag him away from me and Tim. Now you can see Vanessa's gotten back onto the front group. Timothy and Ben are working near the back. Doesn't look quite too confident, Timothy. So back up to the front. Vanessa's now also making her way back. That is indeed Frank. That is cheeky, CVR. I mean, we need to have a discussion on lap riders and how they should be handled in the game. Now, getting through, you can come into the inside lane, coming to a bit of a standstill again. I mean, the pace is still high. I'm at 193 equalized heart rate at this point, according to the nearby riders list or the leaderboard, so I'm definitely suffering. See Ben further down with Timothy, with Seb, with Quinton. They're 10 seconds off the back. Ben looks surprisingly fresh in this. His equalized heart rate is 166. The max is 200. So he does come back in the end, but he looks quite fresh here. Speeding it up. 10 kilometers to go on this track. See, Casey off the front. I'm up there. Tim is yet to crash. Quinton. This is the first time I'm actually watching the stream back. I'm just running it through with what I felt last night. You can see Quinton is suffering. He's working with Timothy. So, I mean, this is questionable. Why are they don't need to really do this work unless they're not confident in Tim. I mean, if you are Timothy and Quinton, don't you force Ben and Sebastian to do the work? Like, you kind of give up your race, but it's team strategy. I mean, you don't, like, by you catching Tim, you also bring Ben back, and you bring back a foe to the front group. But you can see Quinton is doing a great job. I'm now following Casey. Tim has just crashed, by the way. I think Tim crashed in that corner that most of us had crashed in the end, because what you don't really realize is when you turn inside and outside, because this course you never really slide, when you are accelerating, when you are attacking and you're trying to get into a draft or trying to lose a draft, you end up going over the sliding limit, but you don't really slide outside. You're comfortable in the middle lanes, but when you try to move inside to follow a draft or somebody going slower, then you crash, and that ends up being the downfall of me in the end. Now, this is a game of cat and mouse with Casey. This is cheeky. I gotta give it to Casey for thinking of it, but knowing that Casey's on a keyboard, I think this took more out of Casey than it took out of me. So Casey's now changing lanes to make me lose the draft. But I'm on a controller. I have these lane swapping tools on the hoods, which means I do not even have to lift my arms. I just have to move a finger, like changing a gear or, you know, touching the brakes. That's all I have to do with my finger. Meanwhile, I know Casey is having to hold his elbow up, hold his his pinky or his index finger down, and swap lanes left and right. And that must be more taxing than what I had to do with just, ooh, that was just a crash there for a second. I mean, what I had to do. So, I mean, joke's on you, Casey. And even, you also overdid it as he crashed here. Now, Casey has just crashed. I don't know if he just caught it on camera. I think we just replayed it. That was a crash from Frank further down, but he was out of the race. What happens in a second is that Casey also crashes in the front. And now I'm like, what do I do? I mean, they didn't really cut to me here, but you can see me on the front. I'm in no man's land. I've got 9 kilometers to go. What do I do? Because I have a gap of 7 seconds, 6 seconds to Vanessa. And initially, I'm like, right, all I have to do is just hold FTP for another 9 kilometers, change lanes, hold FTP, do 367 equalized watts, and I'm going to win. But I'm at 193 equalized heart rate. I have 194. I have 6 more beats to go. And technically, I have to go above my FTP. I have to really be in that uncomfortable zone. And if you know me, I'm not a person who really likes to be in that. Like, this is essentially like climbing a mountain now. It's like doing a time trial where nothing else really matters except for the power that you can produce. And I'm looking up. I think at this point I say to Ryan, I don't think I can hold this effort. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for the chasing group to come back on, and I'm going to latch on to the group. I was comfortable with that. I also asked Victor to turn on my audio here, and I say, right, I can't do a TT. I can't hold it. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to wait. And Vanessa comes flying by with Casey at this point. So 2 seconds back, they're going to come up. Timothy, Quentin, Ben, it's stretched out in the back. Really, I saw it coming from Nigel saying that this race looked a lot like a time trial. And it really, really wasn't, Nigel. I mean, I think you might have to write it yourself. It definitely was not a time trial, because if it was, then I would have just time trialed to the end. But what it did feel like, it felt like a crit. It felt like accelerations, slow down, accelerations. If you crash, you're out of the race. Like, it's as simple as that. If you crash, it's really, really difficult to win. I don't think Vanessa crashed a single time, so she ended up winning it quite easily in the end. But now we got Vanessa, we got Casey, we got me, you got Quentin trying to make his way back. And you can see, from having done the physical replays over the weekend, you want to do the best you can do to stay with the front group. If you lose the draft at any point, it's just game over. It's not very fun to be in the position that Quentin is in right now, because he has to close a gap to me like I did earlier on. Meanwhile, I can do 267 watts and keep the same speed as he does just by drafting Casey at this point. But 7 laps to go. Quentin, Timothy, Ben are working hard. Ryan, my teammate, crashed a few too many times in this race to really play much of a role. But we'll see. Vanessa's gone off the front. I mean, there's no hope now catching her back. She was really feeling it today. And seriously impressed. Going to that level is hurtful. Now, catch that again. Analyzing that. Casey and I, at this point, Casey knows I'm just going to wheel suck him. I've ridden too long with him. He knows I'm not taking any turns. So he goes on the inside, and then he does 1,000 equalized watts. Watch that again. Now, keep an eye up here, specifically he in this corner for a second when it comes to Casey. Now, he goes to the inside lane, breaks my draft, goes to 1,000 equalized watts, and then he goes for it, but then he crashes. Nice idea, Casey, but now you left me for death, because as great as that move is, I crashed in the exact same spot later on. As great as that is, now you leave me for death. Now I have to wait for Quentin and Timothy. And the reason why he crashed is because he was turning inside on a lane where the speed restrictions were too high compared to the pace he was going. So he was accelerating. He was doing 1,000 equalized watts. So he was doing, 45 kilometers an hour. And on that corner, because it is so steep, you cannot turn inside going that sort of speed. Now, I have to make a decision here. What do I do? Again, I choose with 6 kilometers to go to wait for the following group as Timothy crashes. But I choose to wait because Vanessa is just crazy flying off the front. 195 equalized watts. She blew her curve into next week. Next time she races, she's going to have a good time. Ben comes back on me. Quentin is coming back on here. So looking good. 6Ks to go. Ben is on the outside again. I remember when Ben passes me on the inside here. I remember when drafting him is thinking, Ben doesn't really change lanes. I'm just going to get an advantage. I didn't even need to draft Ben because drafting Ben was technically a disadvantage. And I say that with the utmost love, Ben Shuliang. I mean, I love all the stuff you do for the community. But on this course, as you saw just in that turn alone, by me swapping left and right, I save so much time in every single corner. I mean, compared to drafting, I just save more holding less wattage, making the right lane swaps. Like going left here, keep an eye on me in the green on the left, and you have Ben on the right. Just look at the exit trajectory, and look at the speed of the exit. It's just night and day. And again, if I didn't lose too much time. But you can see Casey coming back now. Timothy's out of the race. Coming up here. Actually, he's not really out of the race. So now we're getting up to the pointy end of the race. Look at this. We have culprit number yellow. Let's see, this guy, I was quite furious. Now, this guy is Tim Fulford. He is Team Cycling Hub. He is the man who pulls me out of this race in a second. So, 5Ks to go for Vanessa. The rest of us look fine. So that's Tim. You can't see the name. But what he's about to do to me is downright criminal. Ben on the outside. Coming up, we're speeding up again, just taking lanes, racing it, waiting for the sprint. Tim's on the front. Now, what Tim's going to try to do straight away, and I see this, is he's about to try and put the brakes on me. I don't think he does it yet. there's a point very early on where Tim attempts to pull the brakes on me. So coming out to the right, that's Tim. He's on the outside now. And Tim is racing for Quinton and Timothy. So these two have teammate Tim, who's actually way down in 15th place. And he's over a minute behind. Now, this is what he attempts to do. He tried to pull on the brakes. Do you see that? So, replay it. Early sign that I knew Tim was going to grief in this race and try and ruin it for me, which he eventually did, is that, here you go. He tried to slow down. I just spotted it. I saw the tendency. I got out of the way. And it didn't work. So now he has to accelerate again. You can see he's now doing 1,000 equalized watts down there to try and catch back up. Catches back up. Now it's in the inside again. Now, for the remainder of the race, I can no longer get to the inside lane. So what now happens, and which I think we should look into as the game is programmed, if you get lapped, I think you should be like a ghostable object. I don't think you should be able to do this. Right now, it's a part of the game, but it honestly sucked so much of the fun out of it. Like, I have to say that being taken out of the race because one person doesn't like what you're doing should not be a thing. So you got teammates, Quinton and Timothy, and even Timothy, who's currently 13 seconds back, eventually comes around. So we have a group here. It would be really, really interesting because we have a good peloton here. We got a good chasing group. I mean, the fight for second is on. You have me, as Casey just crashes, turning into Quinton. You have me, you have Ben, you have Quinton, you have Sebastian, you have Timothy. Get a bit of replay here as Casey just didn't really look to the right before he turned in. Hits Quinton. Quinton with a bit of a smirk. Looks good. But here, my opinion, after having done this, after having been in the situation, I don't really want it to be a thing where if you are lapped and if you are, let's say we have teams on Cade and a teammate crashes early on, then the one thing he needs to do is find the opposing team sprinter and just take him out of the race. It's bad form. It's bad ethics. I'm not really a fan of it. I know everybody's done it at some point. It's really good, but this should not be a thing. Then you can see Ben sitting in. Now, what I did when I got to this point is I realized I was being griefed. So I'm like, right, all I can do is just kind of just hold my speed and try and get out of it. I do find a bit of pace, so I move on the inside, I get out, but in doing that, I kind of let Ben out, so I made a mistake as well, because Ben was just comfortable sitting on my wheel. Now, he attacks. He's doing 900 equalized watts, and then Tim shuts the door on me. I cannot really get around. So now you see, I'm trying to follow. I was kind of hoping he'd crash into me and it'd be game over, but Quinton is attacking, Ben's attacking. I have to go into the hurt zone to try and get back onto Quinton, and I do. Ben is still up there, but I crash as well. It's just dumb. Let's see if Victor gets the replay up. He does. So, attacking, everything is good. At this point, I'm doing 48 kilometers an hour, 49 almost. Really attacking onto this, trying to know, because I know I can get back up. And then swapping inside. Ben crashes on that point. Quinton is lucky. Like, Quinton is extremely lucky. If we go back again. Now, watch the speed differential between Quinton and I. It is insignificant. It is so tiny. Ben crashes at 50 kilometers an hour right there. Quinton gets through at 47.6. I'm at 49.8, and I crash as well. And that's just it. But back on, back up. You see? Oh, they played it again? No, they didn't. So now Quinton is in second place. He has to work for 2.6. I've not yet to see this. Vanessa is still way out in the front. Quinton is second place. Seb is there. Ben, I'm working with Ben now. Casey as well. You can see Vanessa, 2 kilometers to go. Would have loved to see her camera angle yesterday. She must have really suffered. She's finding a teammate out there. Is that Homer she's drafting? I think that might be Homer, who she's getting a slight tow from. But, ooh, bumped the back of it. She definitely set a new best. She must have upped her curve by quite a lot because she made everybody else suffer significantly. 1.4k to go. Quinton in second place. Great effort. 193 equalized heart rate. He's in TT mode. He's 20 seconds back. Can he keep Sepp Kuhn off his wheel? 7 seconds, 6 seconds. Now again, back to me. I mean, it just infuriates me just watching it now. I mean, I've got 1.5k to go and I still can't get to the inside lanes to try and chase down Ben, who's attacked. Casey on the inside as well. Now Vanessa finishing. See, Quinton on the back wheel as well. Sepp now 6 seconds back. I don't remember if Sepp comes back to take second place or Quinton gets second. Be impressive if Sepp manages to close a 6-second gap with about, what is that, 800 meters to go. But you'll see Quinton, second wheel, 300 meters to go. We'll speed it up. Vanessa takes the very well-deserved win of the day in the first CVRcade preseason race. Then we have Quentin Mones, who's going to get second place. And then further down, I'm Spat, Sep third place, Ben fourth, Casey, and I'm just done. Timothy as well. Good racing. Now, let's just do the second race, just since I've got it here anyway. Let's see if I can cut forward. Here's all the highlights. Let's go. How far can I go? So now we're on Fantastic Alien Sea. This was a fun race. This was definitely up there as one of the better races I've done in a while. And it was organized by Ben. He did a good job managing the power-ups. You had Quantum Shift on at all times. You had one comeback kit, one corner caper, and you had power plants to use with a 60-second refresh rate. So if you watched to this point, I may as well just talk through this race as well, because I enjoyed the Alien Sea race. I think it offered a unique perspective into the racing, what it could be. So in this race, everybody was a ghost. I mean, you couldn't crash by hitting another rider because no hitbox was tangible. Like, they were all see-through technically. So with me knowing that power plant was on every 60 seconds, I made it my mission to just pop power plant as often as I could, because you don't really need the tactical ability to pop the power plant, because power plant gives you 100 watts more for 5 seconds. I think Ben is up to 10 seconds in this race, but you don't really need the tactical ability that allows. I mean, you can let the legs do the talking. Tim is hacking here by 1,000 equalized watts. But over the entirety of the race, I think popping power plant as often as possible is going to save you more than using it in a moment where 100 equalized watts is more. That was just my thought, and I think it was correct. But you can see Tim is attacking. Frank's in second wheel. Timothy is in third. You got me further down. Rick. You're definitely seeing signs of fatigue at this point from different riders. But with everyone being on Quantum Shift at all times, you are essentially in control of your own lanes. Like, you can really nail the lanes. And you can see I'm suffering. I did not want to let Frank and Tim go. I definitely didn't want to let Tim go after what he did to me in the last race. So I was just making it my mission to chase it down. I do know I have Rick, I have Casey, I have Timothy, I have Ryan, I have Quentin on my wheel. But it's only 3 laps of Alien Sea. It's 3 laps of like a 3-minute effort and then a 1-minute rest on the descent. So I thought, right, let's just get stuck in. Let's do it. I'd also put on the headphones for this one. I was listening to music. I wanted to get in the zone. I wanted to just hear the beat, and I knew this was going to hurt. But again, Quantum Shift, being able to just change the lanes. Here I'm getting about 40% draft from Casey. Casey's doing 367, 392 equalized watts. He's also doing a high effort. You got Rick Woods on the wheel, Timothy, Ben. I go past him, popping the power plant, swapping to the right. And now, let's speed it up, as you can see. There isn't all that much strategy when it's Quantum Shift on the uphill, etc. It's just choose the right lanes, be on the inside, because you do save seconds, you do save time. Put down the power, pop power plant as often as possible, and just try and get some draft. So with Quantum Shift being on, usually when you're drafting, you're like bumping and you're slowing down when you hit the back of the wheel. And this you don't really. Like, I'm right now, well, I guess Casey's inside of me. So Casey's getting 40% draft. And when he now crosses me, I'm getting more. So right now, this is like 45% draft, 50% draft. And we get to a point in the race where we have 5 people all inside each other at the same time. And I think I experienced 78% draft, 81% draft. Now, on the descent, here you go with a big swooping right hand. You can do this one at 50 kilometers an hour. That's where you want to slow down to. So 50 Ks. Also, the next one is also 50 kilometers an hour. So again, you want to slow down, keep it at 50. You'll stay in the middle. And the last one, they say it's 55 kilometers an hour, but I think you can go faster. Those I won't spoil the race yet. I won't spoil it. In case you have not seen it yesterday, I won't really spoil the race because we're getting there. But again, second lap now, power plant, sliding out on this one. Don't really need to brake. Tim is looking comfortable, 183. I'm at 183. Case is 178. It's definitely everybody's got more in the tank. But here you go. You got Timothy inside. This is where I think we hit 81 drafting. And Tim made a mistake by not going inside earlier there. But right now, everybody is inside everybody. Ryan is popping comeback kit. Ben's popping comeback kit. They're trying to get back into it. But here, I mean, we're going 35 kilometers an hour uphill, and none of us are really putting on the pressure. 5Ks to go. I say that, and then I look at my face. I think I don't really have control over my face when I'm riding my bike. I mean, what I'm feeling is just coming through my face, or with the effort I'm producing. You can see I'm tilted my head as well. I do that when I'm suffering. So in case you want to know my poker tell. You can see on the front, 300 equalized watts for me, 4.5. We're halfway up the climb now. Power plant's being popped. Timothy is in the back, 187 equalized heart rate. Quentin is also there. Homer's just off the back. Ryan is bad as well. So now I would say it's a 5-man race for the win near the front. And Casey's he's putting down the hurt. I'm not letting him go. Casey was the marked man that I thought could do something in this race. He didn't quite. I think he might have had a crash on the descent, but we'll see. Top of the second lap now, coming on the inside. Again, with quantum shift being on. I am a fan of this, but I don't think it has much longevity to ride with quantum shift always on. You can see Tim now goes on to the attack. Is anyone going to follow him down? It looks like Timothy Tamont actually closes the gap. Cycling Up might want to have a group chat there. You can see Timothy Tamont closing down the gap on his own teammate. But Tim attacked into it. 3.3 kilometers to go now. Casey third, I'm fourth. You got Quentin further down as well. Again, managing the speed on those corners, knowing the terminal velocity before you crash is really what you need inside here. I mean, they say it's 55 kilometers an hour. I think you can go much quicker. Like, I think I need to try that. I don't think there's a speed limit on the final corner. I think there's almost a negative speed limit. I think if you go below 55 k's an hour, you will crash out. I think the more you do, the better. But Casey crashed, so he's out. He's not really in contention anymore. It's the final ascent, feeling fresh. At this point in my mind, I'm thinking, just don't mess it up, Jesper. Just don't mess it up. You're in the best possible position. You're smarter than Quentin. You're smarter than Timothy. You're smarter than Tim. Tim is slowly being spat here also. All you got to do, Jesper, is not mess it up, and you're going to win this race. And I still stand by that. If I didn't mess it up, I do still think I would have won this. Timothy goes on to an early attack. With comeback kit being available, I'm not sure that's the right strategy, because if you are the first person in, you can never really use comeback kit because you need to be behind somebody in order to use it. So I realized this here. I could either carry on the speed or I could slow down and let somebody pass me. You can see Quentin's coming from far back. I think Quentin purposely let himself drop, then pop comeback kit on the ascent to try and take the momentum over the top. So that's Quentin. He's now going 47 kilometers an hour, 10 k's an hour, quicker than the rest, and he's staying with it. He does not have comeback kit. Casey's gotten back into the group. He's attacking as well, and this hurts. This hurts. Watch this again. Did you spot it the first time around? Watch my avatar. Watch my I fat-fingered corner caper. We're at the top. This is where you want to pop comeback kit because you have a long straight and a very forgiving right-hand turn. This is where you want to pop comeback kit. 3 seconds back, enough momentum, sayonara. They're never coming back. And instead, I fat-fingered both power-ups. And that is almost my race over. I still think I could have won it. I still think, despite popping the corner caper, I could have won it. Maybe I should do a physical replay and try it without a corner caper. But yeah, you can see we're watching the back of Quentin, and that's me. That is a Raging Bull Jesper Anchor with comeback kit coming through, and I'm going about 13 kilometers an hour quicker than Quentin Mullen is. And I think Quentin was on purposely slowing down to try and negate my comeback kit. But here you go. Now, I got to get down to 50 kilometers an hour on these turns. On these turns, I have to do 50 k's an hour. And Quentin is the great blocker for me right now. And again, back down to 50 k's an hour. And now I should have sprinted. I should have given this everything. I should have just gone to the inside and sprinted. I don't. I mean, I kind of do, but I really don't. I should have just given it everything. And then coming into the sprint, Timothy's doing more than me. I don't have a chance to build up momentum again. I come back, but there's nothing left. Third place. Very disappointed with it. Did Casey crash in that descent somehow? Wait, let's watch Casey. How did Casey mess that up? So Casey is in 4th place now. He should be with us. Does his corner cable run out too quickly? It must be, because he's 2 seconds back, 2 seconds back, 1 second back. Oh, he crashes. Yeah, corner cable runs out. Quentin, Timothy also comes over. I unclipped in the sprint. You can see, like, I guess you can't really see, but I kind of unclipped. I don't know even how I did it. Quentin wins, Timothy second, me third. Run that descent again. So here I should have just sprinted. Here I should have just giving it everything. Is absolutely hammer it. I guess next corner. This one you can only do 50 kilometers an hour without sliding out. And then from here, once I exit the corner, here I should start sprinting and use the descent to gain momentum. But I think Quentin with the corner caper just had a massive advantage, and that you can't. I guess you do need the corner caper to win. Timothy solid second place, good wattage around as well, but my plan was to use the corner caper on the big swooping turn. My plan was to use corner caper on the 2 turns where you can only do 50, because there was only 2 points where I need to break, which was this. If you use the corner caper on these 2 turns, then you're gonna have the easiest win. Like, these are the only 2 corners you need to go below 50 kilometers an hour. If I could just use the corner caper in these 2 turns, I could sprint through the final turn and they would never see me again. But mistakes were made. I enjoyed the racing. Let me know if you got this far in the video over on CVRcade Riders Group. Did you enjoy the analysis? Did you enjoy the racing on Tuesday evening? And will you be back on Thursday? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.